You are exhausted. Not because of what is actually happening in your life right now. You are tired because your mind refuses to stop running. It races forward, trying to manage situations that have not even happened yet. You lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, playing out the worst-case scenarios. One mistake, a conversation that might go wrong, the sudden collapse of a plan you worked hard to build. It feels like you are walking around with a heavy backpack full of imaginary disasters. And you probably think you are just being responsible. You tell yourself that if you think about every possible outcome, you can somehow protect yourself from getting hurt. But that constant mental spinning is not keeping you safe. It is just stealing the energy you need to handle today. And the hardest part is the guilt that immediately follows the panic. You catch yourself worrying, and then you start punishing yourself for it. You wonder why your faith feels so fragile. You assume that if you were just a stronger Christian, or a better person, you wouldn't be spiraling like this. Please stop attacking yourself for feeling overwhelmed. Having an anxious thought is not proof that God has abandoned you. It does not mean your spiritual life is broken. It usually just reveals that you are facing real pressure and you are trying to carry it using a method that does not work. You cannot shame your mind into finding peace. Beating yourself up and demanding that you just trust more only adds another layer of noise to a brain that is already exhausted. Your willpower is not the issue here. What keeps you stuck is how you actually react when the fear shows up. The reason we cling to worry is because it disguises itself as work. When you sit there running through every terrible possibility, your brain tricks you into thinking you are actively preparing for the future. It feels like necessary motion. You tell yourself that if you can just map out every potential disaster, if you can just anticipate what that person might say, or how that project might fail, or what might happen to your health, you can somehow outsmart the pain. You are putting in massive amounts of mental effort. But mental spinning is basically a rocking chair. You burn a tremendous amount of energy, your heart rate goes up, your focus narrows, yet you never actually move a single inch forward. This kind of mental over-control is a counterfeit form of safety. It looks incredibly responsible on the surface. We live in a culture that actually rewards this. We call it being proactive or managing risk. You tell yourself you are just being careful, because if you don't think about it, who will? But let me ask you to look honestly at your own track record. Can you name a single time that overthinking a situation actually gave you lasting peace? Think about the last time you lost sleep obsessing over a conversation that had not happened yet. You scripted out your answers. You anticipated their anger. You played the defense lawyer in your own head for 3 hours at 2 in the morning. Did any of that mental rehearsal actually change the outcome? Or did it just make you walk into the real conversation already defensive, already exhausted, and already on edge? Worry feels productive, but it is deeply deceptive. It does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It only empties today of its strength. When you endlessly simulate worst-case scenarios, you are stepping out of the reality of right now, where God's presence actually is, and you are wandering into a dark future that does not exist. And you are trying to fight the battles of tomorrow, using only the resources you were given for today. That is why you feel so incredibly tired. You are carrying a weight you were never assigned to carry. But this brings up a harder question. If overthinking doesn't actually work, why do we keep doing it? What is the hidden rule driving this exhausted system? The engine keeping you awake is a hidden belief about control. Deep down, most of us operate on a very specific, unspoken rule. We believe that if we just analyze a problem long enough, we can prevent it from hurting us. It feels incredibly dangerous to let your guard down. If you stop obsessing over your finances or your kids or that upcoming decision, you feel exposed. Worry has become your protective wall. As long as you are stressing over a situation, it feels like you are holding the steering wheel. Dropping the worry feels like taking your hands off the wheel while the car is still moving. You have probably been hurt before. Situations have blindsided you, People have let you down when you least expected it. So you built a survival system where you rely entirely on your own mental vigilance to keep your life from collapsing. You are trying to act as the architect of your own safety. Through a biblical lens, this shifts the picture entirely. This is not just a frustrating psychological habit, it is a quiet, exhausting battle over who actually runs your life. Overthinking is essentially an attempt to play God over your own future. You are trying to be all-knowing. You are trying to predict every variable so you can guarantee a safe outcome. But human minds were never designed to carry the weight of omniscience. You are simply not built to hold tomorrow. That is exactly why the system is breaking you. God will often allow our own methods of control to exhaust us so we can finally see how fragile they really are. You cannot fix this by just commanding your mind to go blank. Willpower will not stop a spinning brain. If you want to break the loop, you cannot just try to stop thinking. You need a completely different rhythm for what to do the second that fear arrives. When the mental spiral starts, your natural instinct is to jump into the ring and start swinging. You try to reason with your anxiety. You try to convince yourself that the terrible outcome will not happen. But you cannot out-debate fear. Fear does not play by logical rules. If you want to stop the cycle, you need a pre-decided response. You need a rhythm that interrupts the noise and anchors you in reality. Think of this as your anxiety to peace framework. It is not a magic trick. It is a 4-part scriptural rhythm you run the exact moment you feel your mind speeding up. First, you have to notice and name the thought. Right now, when anxiety hits, you probably merge with it entirely. You assume that because you are thinking it, it must be the undeniable truth. Instead, you need to create distance. The moment your chest tightens and the worst-case scenario flashes in your mind, pause and label it. Say out loud, "This is a fear about my job," or "This is a panicked thought about my health." Naming the fear strips away its authority. It reminds you that this is just a passing thought, not a confirmed prophecy about your future. Second, you take the thought captive. The Apostle Paul wrote about taking every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ. He used military language because your mind is contested territory. You do not invite an intruder to sit down at your kitchen table and negotiate. You arrest them at the door. When that dark scenario tries to set up camp in your head, you actively refuse to entertain it. You stop feeding it extra details. You treat it like a trespasser. Third, you replace the fear with truth. You cannot just empty your mind. If you tell yourself to stop thinking about debt, your brain will only focus on debt. A vacuum will always get filled. So once you arrest the anxious thought, you have to overwrite it with the word. This is not empty, positive thinking. It is standing on actual spiritual bedrock. If your fear is telling you that you are entirely alone in a crisis, you replace it with the scriptural reality that God is an ever-present help in trouble. You force the anxiety to stand next to the undeniable nature of God, and you let the fear shrink against his size. Finally, you release the burden through thanksgiving. Philippians 4 tells us to bring our requests to God with thanksgiving, and then the peace of God will guard our minds. Thanksgiving is the heavy anchor. When you are terrified of tomorrow, the most radical thing you can do is start thanking God for what he has already carried you through in the past. It shifts your eyes off the unpredictable future and locks them onto God's proven track record. You name it, you arrest it, you replace it, you release it. This is how you stop fighting your mind and start guarding it. Now, I need to tell you the truth about what happens next. You might run this exact rhythm tonight. You might take the thought captive, anchor yourself in scripture, and finally feel the tension leave your shoulders. You might get a solid night of sleep. And then tomorrow morning, you might wake up, pour your coffee, and feel that exact same heavy dread waiting for you in the kitchen. The thought will probably come back. When this happens, the enemy loves to whisper a very specific lie. He will tell you that the process failed. He will suggest that your faith is broken, that God did not listen, and that you are doomed to carry this panic forever. Please hear this clearly. The return of an anxious thought does not mean you are spiritually failing. Intrusive thoughts are persistent. Your brain has spent years, maybe decades, building deeply worn pathways of worry. You cannot undo a 10-year habit of overthinking with one single afternoon of prayer. Peace is not a permanent deletion of all problems. Peace is a practiced rhythm. Through a biblical lens, God might be using this repetition to build actual spiritual endurance in you. Every single time that fear returns, and every single time you refuse to entertain it and run it back through the truth of Scripture, you are weakening the old system. You are forging a brand new pathway of trust. It will feel tedious. It will feel like you are fighting the same minor battle over and over again. But spiritual formation often looks like boring, repetitive obedience. Do not panic when the fear knocks on the door again tomorrow. It is just an echo. You know exactly what to do with it. You just run the rhythm again. You do not have to solve your entire life tonight. There is no need to figure out what happens 5 years from now or even next month. You just need a faithful next response when the fear starts talking. So here is your only assignment. Grab your phone or a simple sticky note. Write down 4 clear words. Name, arrest, replace, release. Put that note on your bathroom mirror. You could make it the lock screen on your phone, or keep it on the dashboard of your car. Just place it wherever your mind usually begins to drift into panic. The next time your chest gets tight, refuse to engage in a massive, exhausting mental war. Do not try to analyze your entire psychological history right in that moment. Just look at the note. Run the first step. Name the thought out loud. Then move to the second. You are simply breaking the momentum of the spiral. You are choosing to trust God with the next 10 minutes, rather than demanding absolute control over the next 10 years. Peace is rarely a sudden lightning bolt that permanently removes all your problems. It is usually a quiet, steady rhythm of handing your burdens back to the God who actually has the strength to carry them. If you found some room to breathe in this, stay with me and subscribe to the channel. We are going to keep looking at real life through the lens of Scripture, working together to build a steadier inner life, one small rhythm at a time. You are not broken. You are just learning a new, truer way to fight. Keep practicing the rhythm. I will see you next time.